Welcome to the Leadership Conversation with Dr. Dennis Burke. Today we'll discuss core values. Core values are inherent in all of our decision making, and they're inescapable. Essentially, the values represent our belief system, what we believe, and whether we understand them or not, whether we are aware of their influences or not, they exist. And so core values are the way we live out what we believe. Underlying our belief system and our success is really the relationship between what we believe and the principles that are inherent in nature. If what we believe influence the things we do, the choices we make, and our belief system is consistent or with the principles that are in nature, then we find that our habits, the things we do, the decisions we make seems to work. And what we would say is, the universe seems to conspire to make our lives work, our decisions work. We get good results because we're consistent. The way we live is consistent with the underlying principles. Now, the place to begin when we discuss values is really at first self and then external, inside out approach, everything. You master yourself, or at least you attempt to understand and master self before we attempt to master and influence things that are external to ourselves. So we're faced with, Immanuel Kant discussed the moral imperative and the categorical imperative. Since we're talking about decision making on the external, I'm going to focus on the categorical imperative. So, if we consider the categorical imperative an underlying moral obligation, a principle, right? How then if we believe that that's a principle, then how do we live out this moral obligation? I believe the core values can be stacked in some layers, really simple layer. This is my opinion, and might be overly simple, but we have what we call governing values. This is a qualitative measure in a relationship. Since we're talking about a categorical imperative, and this is about how we treat people, right? We will say something like a governing value would be like trust and respect. Trust and respect. And we think of either or both on continuums. So they can be high trust, low trust, high respect, low respect. And the way I define this is say, trust and respect are governing values, and they're the qualitative measures in the health of relationship, how we treat people, how we relate to others. Below these governing values, the next layer is what I call a supporting value. A supporting value is something like fairness, right? If you trust and respect someone, you can demonstrate that by treating them fairly, right? So even if it's a stranger, how you treat them, is representative of how much trust and respect you're directing toward him or her, right? So fairness as a supporting value is something what we say it demonstrate respect and trust. Beneath fairness is another layer, what I call subordinate values. Subordinate values are something like empathy and sympathy. Now, subordinate values are fluid, right? Because you choose to be empathetic or sympathetic based on how much respect or trust you have for the person, or how much you want to engage in whatever situation is happening. So at the top, we have we believe in the categorical imperative as a principle. It's a moral obligation. And because that's operating in the background, our subconscious system, we live this out by showing trust and respect. And those are governing value. We would say, I trust and I respect people, and I treat them with trust and respect. And that is then lived out in the health of relationships. Now, a supporting value beneath the governing value is fairness, right? We always award or accord people with fairness. We give them a chance to to, let's say, prove themselves, right? We demonstrate our trust and respect by being fair with people. Beneath the supporting values, we have subordinate values, and they are fluid, situational, specific, and there's something like empathy and sympathy. So that's the side of the value system that we operate in. Now, the counter values to this might be what I call, I'm just going to put them in one bucket, fake values, right? People say their values and they actually believe in them and live by them, but in reality, because they're inconsistent with the principles, the governing principles, they're fake values, something like if we got together in a group and said we are superior, right? We are superior as a group. That in itself, that concept contradicts the categorical imperative, and therefore, even if my group commit to it, it has no ethical value. It doesn't support the categorical imperative, a principle for anyone outside of my in-group. That is a fake value and invariable will collapse, right? And essentially, sometimes people learn over time, they learn that, oh, I had the wrong belief, sometimes too late. So again, values are critical. Core values are critical in the way we make decisions. They represent what we actually believe, whether we recognize them or not. And once our values, our belief system gets inside and we're wired to believe whatever we believe, we live that out, it becomes our habit. Therefore, if I want to change the way I live, change the way I approach life, impact my quote unquote success, then I need to reflect and understand how I am making decisions, what are my values, and how they relate to the principles that are inherent in the environment where I am operating. Thank you for watching this episode of the Leadership Conversation. I'm Dr. Dennis Burke. I'll see you in the next episode.